to a stop.
Well, let's talk about that, because I know you're not talking about violence, but I am curious as to what you...
Did you see Jake Tapper's hands? He's literally doing the calm down gesture in midair because he realized AOC just said something that could get them both in hot water. This is the moment a veteran CNN host realized his guest was going totally off script.
And they are calling him a domestic terrorist in order to defend their gross abuse of power, their absolute breaching of the law, and in order to also precipitate greater conflict. And it is fundamentally against the leadership and what we need right now, and what the American people need right now. It is dangerous. And again, if this administration does not put it to a stop, we must put it to a stop.
Well, let's talk about that, because I know you're not talking about violence, but I am curious as to what you think.
Okay, we have to talk about the weight of what she just said. She's not just complaining about policy here. She's saying if the administration doesn't stop, we must put it to a stop. Look at her expression. It's incredibly intense. That's exactly why you see the camera cut back to Jake Tapper looking like he just saw a ghost. He immediately jumps in to clarify she isn't talking about violence, but the pause before he speaks is everything. You can tell the producers were probably screaming in his earpiece. It's fascinating because the subject matter, a fatal shooting by federal agents, is already high tension, but she pushes the rhetoric to a level where the host feels a professional obligation to sanitize the statement for the audience. Notice how she doesn't explicitly agree or disagree with his clarification at first. She just lets the statement hang there. This is a masterclass in high-stakes political theater where the host is actually more nervous than the politician.
If you are an everyday person, what is happening right now is that there is an environment of political intimidation at play. They don't want us to use our First Amendment rights. They don't want us to exercise our freedom of assembly or freedom of speech. They want to they want to make sure that we are afraid to act as people, as employers, as a free nation. And I cannot stress enough how important it is for everyday Americans to not be intimidated out of using their First Amendment rights, which is to continue to say that when you see something wrong, we must organize and mobilize against it. We must use our freedom of assembly. And what we are seeing here right now is an administration that is deeply afraid of its own unpopularity. We must remember that we outnumber
them. That is a very specific choice of words. She's pivoting from a legal argument about the First Amendment to a numbers game. Did you catch the way she framed the environment of political intimidation? She's effectively telling her base that the fear they feel is a tool of the state, and the only way to break that tool is through sheer volume of people. It's a classic mobilization tactic, but seeing it play out on a major news network with this level of urgency is rare. She's leaning into the organize and mobilize rhetoric so hard that the actual news story, the shooting in Minneapolis, almost becomes secondary to the call for a mass movement. Watch her eyes. She's not looking at Jake anymore. She's looking directly into the lens, talking to the people at home. It's a direct appeal to the viewers to stop being afraid to act.
She is claiming that they are breaking the law. Minneapolis has a city ordinance of a sanctuary city. It is the municipal law that we respect people's individual rights in the city. They may not like it, they may not agree with it, but they are not taking issue with Governor Walz and Governor Frey. They are taking issue with the people of Minneapolis and the people of Minnesota who have duly elected their own elected officials to enact their will. So they may not like it, but that is what the people of Minnesota and the people of Minneapolis want. They want people's civil liberties and civil rights protected. They have passed a sanctuary city ordinance. Mayor Frey is executing on the municipal laws passed by duly elected officials by the people of Minneapolis. That is what it means to live in a democracy. And that is precisely what they are trying to threaten and undermine in this moment.
This part is a massive legal curveball. She's arguing that a municipal ordinance, basically a city-level rule, should have supremacy over federal operations. It's a bold take on the sanctuary city concept. She's framing the mayor's refusal to cooperate as the will of the people and essentially saying that federal agents are the ones breaking the law by being there. The logic is that democracy at the local level is being threatened by the federal government. It's a complete flip of the usual constitutional hierarchy where federal law typically wins out. You can tell she's leaning on the duly elected officials argument to give her stance more moral weight. She's essentially telling Minneapolis that they are an independent democratic island that the feds are invading. It's an incredibly aggressive stance for a sitting member of Congress to take against federal law enforcement.
In directing this around Mayor Frey, in directing the language that she was using about Governor Walz, claiming that they are, quote unquote, inciting, that their resistance and difference from this administration, that their political difference in policy from this administration, she is equating disagreement with incitement. And in doing so, in using the specific language and rhetoric that she's using, she is laying the groundwork in alignment with what President Trump said and what White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said, because she is talking about and laying the rhetorical groundwork for the Insurrection Act in terms of their language earlier this week. In fact, her contrast with the other states and municipalities that she talked about. She talked about Memphis, she talked about Florida, and she talked about Texas. 3 states with Republican governors. And she contrasts that to try to lay the groundwork against action against Democratic states and governors. And this isn't just a matter of political difference. This is talking about what Carolyn Leavitt said earlier this week, that they want to use the Insurrection Act specifically on states based on their political affiliation.
Now she's bringing Trump into it. And this is where the rhetoric gets really sharp. She's equating the actions of the current DHS with the Insurrection Act rhetoric we've heard in the past. She's using the word incitement against the administration, which is a very heavy legal and political term. By contrasting Minneapolis with states like Texas or Florida, she's painting a picture of a country divided into good and bad zones based on political affiliation. She's basically accusing the administration of targeting blue cities as a form of political revenge. This isn't just a policy debate anymore. She's framing this as a literal battle for the sovereignty of Democratic-led states. The way she strings these points together shows she's trying to build a narrative of a rogue federal government that is out of control.
There has been this permission structure where we have all universally accepted that the Republican Party will simply just have no morals or fall in line with the presidents of the United States. And we have to challenge that logic and rhetoric every single time. I believe that oftentimes they're given a free pass, and that this accepted logic just allows them to continue to vote without any resistance from their constituencies because we've accepted some foregone conclusion. But again, Democrats do have the ability. Republicans do need 10 Democratic votes in the United States Senate to pass continued unfettered ICE voting with no guardrails as it stands. And I think that regardless of where you are in the Democratic Party, this moment and this incident proves that the status quo cannot stand. And I would implore my Democratic colleagues in the Senate to vote no against maintaining this DHS.
The permission structure. That's the key phrase here. She's calling out her own party, specifically the 10 Democratic senators they need to pass funding. She's basically telling them that if they vote for ICE funding, they are complicit in everything she just spent the last 10 minutes describing. It's a high-pressure tactic. She's trying to remove the middle ground for moderate Democrats by framing the ICE agency as something that has no morals. This is a direct attempt to force a government shutdown over immigration enforcement. She's betting that the public outcry over these incidents will be strong enough to force the Senate's hand. It's a high-stakes gamble that shows she's willing to push the system to its absolute breaking point to get the results she wants. So, was AOC out of line, or is she the only one speaking the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow for more deep dives into the clips the mainstream media won't analyze.